Hi, I'm Anthony Mangano, and welcome to another great episode of City of Churches. Today we're in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn to visit St. Anselm's Church. But first, we're going to take a walk around this great neighborhood. So come on. This cannon, this monument here in John Paul Jones Park, commemorates America's first resistance against the British in 1776. You know that the most recognizable landmark here in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn? Well, that's the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, and it's right behind me. You can't miss it. That bridge connects Brooklyn to Staten Island, and it opened in 1964. It is the longest suspension bridge in the United States. It was named for the Italian explorer Giovanni di Verrazzano. In 1524, he was the first European to explore New York Harbor and the Hudson River. And you know, when that bridge was named, ironically, they misspelled his name, and to this day, they've never changed it. They left out a Z. You know that Bay Ridge, Brooklyn is located on the southwestern part of Brooklyn on the western tip of Long Island? And believe me, there are 80,000 people living here now. I know, because you can see this traffic. I deal with this a lot. It's amazing how many people live here. You know, to avoid confusion with yellow fever, which was a disease at that time, they decided to merge the two towns, and they called it Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. And at that time, a lot of people, wealthy people, decided to move here, which they were building out here in the country. Does this look like country now? It's long time ago. Well, here we are on 68th Street and 5th Avenue at one of the oldest still standing theaters, the Lowe's Alpine Theater. Now, this was built in 1921, and it was for silent movies. Now, it changed hands a couple of times over the year, and now it's an 8 multiplex theater, but with different owners. But what's really special to me is, see, when I was a little boy, my brothers were born, and I was 7 years old, and my mother took me on a bus. We lived on 22nd and between 5th and 6th, you know, right by St. John's, and she came here with me, and we saw Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And to this day, it's my favorite movie of all time because it was special. I mean, she took me, it was just her and I. It was a mother-son moment, and there was an intermission. I never saw an intermission in a movie, and we went out, and she bought me the little Chitty Chitty Bang Bang car, which I still have to this day. It's gone through a couple little bang-outs, but it's still worth a lot of money. But, you know, my daughter Nicole has this song by Taylor Swift that she plays all the time for my wife and her. It's called The Best Day. And to me, even though my mom's been gone 34 years ago, I'm getting a little emotional now. That had to be probably the best day in my life with her. That special moment between a mother and a son. Still, look, see, I'm actually tearing up. It's an actual moment. And there's a great song in there that I sing to my wife and daughter. We joke around with it. It was called, it's by Dick Van Dyke singing it to the two kids. He goes, someone to care for, to be there for, I have you too. It's a great song, and this is a great moment for me. Thank you for letting me share that with you. Sorry about the tears, but they're real. You know what's amazing about this neighborhood? I'm sure a lot of you people watching this is going to remember. This is where they filmed Saturday Night Fever, and it just marked its 41-year anniversary. Now, I remember as a kid going out because that was it, disco. John Travolta shot to stardom with that movie, and he starred as Tony Manero, and his girlfriend was Stephanie Mangano. Now, I'm Tony Mangano, so I think about it. If they would have named me Tony Mangano, I might have had to change my name. But there are so many great special landmarks here in this area, Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. You know, I think every Italian kid that grew up in Brooklyn in the 70s wanted to do the John Travolta strut, walking down 86th Street like this. I don't have a paint can in my hand or a leather jacket, but it's a really cool shot as we're walking down 86th Street here. A tribute to John Travolta and Tony Manero. And here we are, Lenny's Pizzeria. What are the odds? It's closed. All I wanted to do was go up there and get 2 slices like Tony Manero with the John Travolta and say, give me 2, give me 2. This is 86th Street. This is a landmark in Brooklyn, especially to an Italian kid, especially watching this show that grew up in the 70s. This was cool, and it was the 40th anniversary or 41st of Saturday Night Fever. Zoom! Today I'm with Monsignor Jack Maloney. Monsignor, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Anthony.
You are the pastor of this parish.
Yes, I am.
And St. Anselm's, and I'd like to jump right in there and just ask you right off the bat, when was the parish founded?
Parish was founded in 1922.
And was this the original church?
No. The original masses were celebrated in a home on Colonial Road.
Really?
This was on 82nd Street and Colonial Road. It's no longer there, but it was almost like a mansion. And so the people that were there, the family that was there, donated it for the church to use until they were able to establish where they were going to have Mass.
How long did they have
Well,
Mass
they stayed
there?
at that house for 2 years till 1924.
Okay.
In 1924, they erected what we now use as the auditorium for the school.
Okay.
And they had Mass there in the auditorium of what became the school later on. Okay, so this church did not come about until 1954. The reason being that after they were using the auditorium, and they always had the plan to build a church, you had the crash of 1929.
Sure.
You had the World War, you had, Korean War. So they did not get to build this church until 1954.
It's amazing. We did Mary Queen of Heaven, and I remember that I think it was during the Depression. They had donated so much money to the church, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is that the pastor gave it back to the community, which is really unheard of.
Yes.
But he felt that the people needed the money so bad because of what was going on.
Yeah.
So now you're making references that this came after World War II.
Yeah, but it went through the Depression and everything. That's why they couldn't move from the school to a new church. To raise the money was, very difficult.
Yeah, like as it is now.
As it is now.
And so this was established in 1954, correct?
This church was built in 1954.
And this is still the original church since then, or has it gone through some changes?
No, this is the original church. I mean, everything here is basically what it was then. There are pictures of this church on the day it was dedicated on Christ the King in 1954. And if you look at that picture today, you'd say that's the church.
Well, you guys, they've upkept it really well. Monsignor, do you know who the architect of the church was?
Yeah, it was a man by the name of Henry Murphy. I believe he had done other churches also. He was the architect, and then the stained glass windows are by Rambush.
So in 1954, this church was dedicated.
It was the first church of Bishop Malloy's reign as bishop.
So why, when I say this, for the neighborhood, why was this church needed at that time? Were there surrounding churches that I see now?
Our Lady of Angels was the first church.
That church I know because my grandfather had his funeral
That's on
there.
74th Street.
Yeah.
Then it was St. Patrick's.
Okay.
But in the intervening years, this neighborhood grew tremendously. When the subway was being built and came into Bay Ridge, and they also started a trolley at that time on 3rd Avenue, the neighborhood started to build up. And it was mainly Catholics who came into this neighborhood, Irish, Italian, and believe it or not, a lot of people from the Middle East.
Really?
Yes, Lebanese and Syrians.
I do. No, you're right. There's a couple of Lebanese friends of mine. They actually they own the Harbor Fitness, I believe.
Okay. And there also were a lot of Norwegians who came into the area. Now, they were not necessarily Catholic, but that was the group that was building up this community.
Really?
Okay. Before that, it was very rural out here. There weren't many homes, but in those years they started to build the houses.
Some of these homes down here are breathtaking,
Oh,
especially
yes.
on Shore Road.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I go down there. Sometimes I would get my father out.
Yeah.
I'd go get a pizza or something, and
Yeah.
we'd sit down because he can't walk. He's got a mess. I'd pull up, and we'd have like a little, watch
Picnic,
the water,
yeah,
little
yeah,
picnic
watch
in the
water.
car. It's amazing to me because some of those buildings are deceiving because you have to pull up and you go, wait a minute, that's not even a front. It's like another 150 feet back, and it's circular, and the co-ops or condos or whatever they are. And then you have the houses that are like, wow.
Yeah, the houses are spectacular down all the side streets here. And then you mentioned Shore Road, Colonial Road, which was where, the home of someone that they used as a church. I mean, that was tremendous in size, they say, but they had 200 people.
Wow, that's a big house.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for that maid at that time.
Yeah.
That's a big house. I mean, my aunt has a house on Colonial, nothing near that.
No.
Nothing near that.
No.
And the demographics, like you were saying, so you had Irish, you had Italian, you had Lebanese, you had Syrian. Has that changed now?
The demographics have changed tremendously, as all of Brooklyn Hart.
Yeah.
I mean, there still are a lot of the old-time Irish and the Italian, but we have a new flux of people, okay? A lot of them are Arabic. All right, now I said we had, people there before, but they were the Catholic. Now we have a lot of Muslims that have come into the area. The area also has started to have a bit of a Hispanic population, they're more down towards Our Lady of Angels. Sure. So, like Brooklyn, the neighborhood's changed quickly.
Everything's changed, yeah. They all, basically, everybody runs to Staten Island and Jersey.
Yes.
They're running out that way or Long Island, but it seems that way.
When they say goodbye to me, that's it. They're running.
You know what? But I know one thing for sure. They do come back to the old neighborhood for all their food and stuff. They should stop in the church too.
No, they do. We still get close to about 800 or 900 people on a Sunday.
How many can hold in here?
This church can hold, well, the fire department says 800. We've had 1,000 in here.
They kind of let it go on holidays and stuff?
Yeah, we get it. Yeah, on Christmas at the midnight mass and the 5 p.m. mass, the children's mass, and then on Easter at the 12 o'clock mass in the morning, we have crowds.
Do your masses have, do you have a Spanish mass or Italian mass, or is it just basically?
This is one of the few churches probably left in the Diocese of Brooklyn that there are only masses in English.
Your school, is it called an academy now?
Yes, it's
because I noticed that everything's an academy. I'm grateful that you're still functioning and there's a school for kids, because I know so many academies are closing.
Yes. The bishop wanted to try and save as many schools as he could. But in the past, the school was actually part of the parish. Okay. And so the school was held responsible for bills of the school. All right, and the bishop began to see, and when I was a vicar I saw this, that the church would pour tons of money into the school would eventually close anyway, and then the parish was left almost bankrupt. Wow. So the academies, part of that is the school is taken out and made its own educational institute, all right, so that the parish is no longer responsible for it.
So it's like a separate entity.
Right. I am the pastor still, and I have to assure that it is a Catholic school, but it's run by a board of directors.
Really?
Of lay people.
Where it used to be basically...
It used to be the principal and the pastor.
And the pastor, wow, that's changed. It's got corporate.
And unfortunately it is, but that's the only way we're able to save, and we tried to save as many as we can.
How many kids do you have in this school?
Right now, we are doing very well. The enrollment, I'm told, for September is over 300 children. Now, to those of us who went to Catholic school years ago, that sounds like nothing. But today that's a good-sized school.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're strong, but things have to be looked at because, again, part of the beauty of here years ago and part of the problems of today is that we have 3 schools within a mile of each other, 3 Catholic schools, and the number of children going to Catholic school, we don't have the numbers we used to have. And you need numbers, of course, because that's tuition and everything else, And one of the situations out here, too, is that the public schools are very good.
Sure. My wife's a teacher, so I know.
And parents are saving because they're saying, wait a minute, if I'm going to send my child to a Catholic high school, which a lot of them are concerned about the children going to Catholic high schools more than grade school, it's going to cost them between $10,000 and $20,000. If they hopefully want to send their child to college, that's $60,000, $80,000 a year. So a lot of parents say to us, I'm going to put my child in the public grade school and save my money for high school and college.
Father, why was it named St. Anselm's?
Okay, well, there were a number of names suggested, but as I said, it was the first church under Bishop Maloney. Bishop Maloney went to St. Anselm's College in Vermont.
Okay.
And so he offered that when he came in as the name that he would like to do to honor his college.
Speaking of St. Anselm's, who was he?
Well, he lived in the 10th century, 10th and 11th century, and he was an Archbishop of Canterbury. And he was a theologian, okay, and he was a scholar, So to tell you that I know a lot about him, no. There are volumes that you can read of his writings, there's theological, philosophical readings, but that's basically what he was. He was a scholar.
I always amazed at how they name churches after different saints and why. There's a reason. Thank you for explaining that to us. Now, there are 2 side chapels here. Can you tell us about them?
Well, one of them, there was one for the religious and one for the lay people.
For the lay people?
For the lay people.
Okay.
All right, the Sisters Chapel, which is now used almost like a workspace for us, okay, that was where they came to Mass. They didn't come to Mass with the general population. They came to Mass here, but they didn't sit with the general population. That's where they
I
sat.
remember that at St. John's as a
Yes,
kid
at
when I was an
St.
altar
yes,
boy.
and
Yeah,
there we go.
there we go.
All right, and the chapel right opposite was always like a rosary chapel.
Okay.
So people could come in, and it still is used that. People come in and they say their rosary there, or they say their prayers there.
Oh, that explains it. Yeah, I do remember St. John. We have a lot in common about St. John's.
Oh, we do. And this church, interestingly enough, when it was in the auditorium, remember when I said it moved to the auditorium?
Yes.
What is now the auditorium? The altar there was donated by the parish of St. John the Evangelist.
Wow. Wow, that's great. It seems like every time I do an episode, something reverts back to my first church. Now, when we come back, Monsignor Jack Maloney is going to show us something very, very important, a special artifact here at St. Anselm. So please, come on back.
Well, Anthony, I wanted to bring you in here into the sacristy of the church because there's something very special here. Remember we said that in 1922 when the parish was started, they were saying Mass in a private home down on Colonial Rome.
Yeah.
This is the table that they used as an altar.
This?
In the library of that house.
Wow.
It still
Look at that. This
exists.
is the first altar.
And then the pastor actually wrote a note and left it here. It says, on Sunday, June 4th, 1922, the first Mass in St. Anselm's Parish was offered on this table in the home of Mr. and Mrs. G.F. Fitzgerald at 8105 Colonial Road. And the Mass was celebrated by the founder and pastor, Reverend James Smythe.
Wow. So this is
since 1922.
This is almost 100 years old.
Yes, and I'm saying 2022, the 100th anniversary, I would hope to use this table as the altar, to bring it out on the altar. And
I think you
place it in
should.
front of, yeah. I mean,
think you
just to
should.
show
It's
the
history of
continuity.
the church.
The history.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I would definitely do that. I mean, that's a Mass was served on this almost 100 years ago
Yes.
and started this church. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. So that's the history, and that's I know you do this wow thing a lot of times. Well, this is all wow thing. To have
This is a wow.
something-
This is a wow.
To have this as long as it is here.
Thank you very much
You're
for
very
sharing
welcome.
that with us.
Thank you.
There are a number of shrines here at St. Anselm's. Could you explain that?
Well, the shrines are here. They were put in.
Okay.
These are the original shrines, Why the names were chosen, which ones, the pastor may have, I don't know because I wasn't around at that time, but the pastor may have asked people who were their famous saints, or they may have seen. We have a mosaic of it, of Divine Mercy. That's new. It's not really a chapel. It's just on the wall there. But the shrines, this is our saint room over here, and there are a number of saints in there.
Okay.
But that room where the saints are now was the original baptistry.
Oh, really?
And then with the new liturgy, when they said that the sacrament should be seen out in the church, that's when the baptistry, which was formed right here to our left, brought out, and they moved pews out of here and they put the baptistry here. But for years, that was the baptistry.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, and even in St. Joe's, they had it in the back, and now everything is centered or somewhat centered so that everyone can see the child being baptized, which I think
it's
makes
also
sense.
the child coming into the church. That's what baptism is about.
Sure.
And so they moved it out of that hidden room, sort of, and they put it into the center of the church. And it usually is in the entranceway somehow.
Monsignor, I noticed that that's St. Anselm's statue there, right?
Yeah, that's only been here since about 2005. That's new.
You kind of see it's kind of on the newer side, otherwise not refurbished. And,
Yeah.
And you also have John the Baptist.
John's been there, I think, since the very beginning.
Wow. That's pretty old. It's amazing.
Well, that's 1950.
Still, that's 60 something. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, I look around and I see the Stations of the Cross, which, every church seems to have a different feel to it. And I noticed that your Stations of the Cross, they're simple, but they're different to me because they had the lettering, the sayings are underneath them. And I know you said a lot of places have them, but I've never seen, they're just bold, and you get to see exactly what it means.
Yeah, well, here give you the name so you know what you're praying on.
I kind of like that. That
On the
makes it very
station.
simple, right to the
Yes.
point.
Okay.
I don't think in all the churches I've done I've ever seen any sayings put underneath it.
Yeah.
We knew what it was.
Right. Well, they named them for the people.
That's okay.
Made it easy to start their prayer. Okay.
I like that. It makes it very simple. Now we come to my favorite part, which I know you know. I'm
Stained
a big
glass. I
stained
know,
glass
I know,
guy.
I
And
know.
I think you mentioned the guy that created these, the company?
Well, the Rambush did the interiors, but it was a Frenchman who did the stained glass.
Oh, really?
And he was an immigrant from France, and he went to work for Rambush, though, eventually, when he came over. But he was the one who did these stained glass windows.
Your stained glass windows, it's the Bible come to life.
Yes,
So
yes.
You see the whole story.
There's a story of creation,
Yeah.
yes, in here. And
I saw Adam and Eve over there,
yeah,
and my
yeah.
producer Lou showed me, I said, where's the snake? And then we saw it at the bottom. I couldn't find it. It was at the bottom.
Yeah, this side, which is to the right of me, that's mainly all the story of creation, and on the left you have ones, that are more of Christ's life. Like I said, they go back to the day when they were put in.
So, Father, I was talking about the rose window,
Right.
especially the shape of that. It looks like a cross.
It looks like a Celtic cross.
Celtic
yeah.
cross. And then the two other windows back here, and then you have one in the private chapel back there. It has like a kaleidoscope look to it.
Like I say, I don't know why they did that, but it could have been the design that the architect wanted to put in.
That's pretty cool the way they designed that. And that's the designer of it. I mean, whoever designed to make it like that, that's amazing that I spotted it. It's pretty cool. Just to look at it in different angles. And the ceiling has the shape of the bottom of a boat.
Yes.
Like I've seen in many churches, and it's heading towards Christ.
Heading towards Christ. Christ who steers the boat.
It's amazing what the brain can do when it wants to.
Yes.
Well, that's it for this episode here at St. Anselm's with Msgr Jack Maloney. Msgr, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show.
Pleasure to have you,
And
Anthony.
sharing St. Anselm's for everybody. And wait, I got to give a special shout out to my friend Steve Finn. Steve Finn was the one that introduced me to Msgr Jack Maloney and talked about this church, and he's a great guy. And I want to make sure I
Great
mention his
parishioner.
name. He's
No,
a great parishioner, really great guy. I'm sorry he wasn't here to be on camera.
Yeah.
He's probably camera shy.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any questions about this episode, you can write into us at City of Churches, 1712 10th Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11215. You can follow us on Facebook or Twitter or netnewyork.tv. And that's it for this week's episode. I thank you so much for watching, and please come back again. God bless you.